Adam, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome into the game in Tuscaloosa.
Always good to talk to you, buddy. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm having a great day. I hope you are too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting a little bit more real. You and I talk probably once a month.
Once a month, yeah.
Do our monthly update of kind of where we are in the world of seeing more college football. I know this time of year, you get the updates, some good, some bad, certainly. And but really now for you and Alabama, the days of celebrating what happened are long gone. And this is sort of about how you back it up. And I think it'll be a really interesting spring, especially with obviously how it started.
I walk out on the practice field on Saturday, and I get a little extended time because I don't have to run to the radio station, don't have to worry about, skipping out, recording segments. And generally, if I'm able to make it over there during the week, I record things, and then which is perfect thing about radio. And I went out and I was thinking about you. And I know you and I always talk about these beasts. But the first thing I walk out there, and I'm talking about all the replacements. We can go through, we could spend the next 30 minutes talking about Alabama's, what they've lost as far as, but then I walk out there and I look at these monsters. I mean, these complete monsters on the practice field. And I go, I think Alabama's just going to be just fine. I think they'll be okay, Adam. I think they'll be okay, especially with this easy schedule in 2018.
Yeah, it is. For them, this is a little bit, the opener is certainly a little less intense. So that's a game they haven't had too much problems with, regardless of opponents here the last 3 or 4 years. What's kind of crazy, and I was thinking about this the other day, we always brainstorm stories at Bleacher Report when you start thinking about, all right, who are you going to talk about at Alabama? Of course you're going to talk about Tua. Of course you're going to talk about Nick Saban. I think they may have, and there's people you could throw in this discussion, but I think two of the most physically unique players on their team, they were freshmen last year. I'm not sure they've had a linebacker as physically gifted as Dylan Moses. I'm not sure they've had a running back as physically gifted, at least as freshmen, as Najee Harris. That says a lot. Trent Richardson. They've had some really good ones. And I'm not saying better, by the way. I'm not saying going to be the best they've had. It's good luck. But physically speaking, there are some real special players that are still trying to figure this thing out. And they're going to have a chance to prove it. And they're going to have a chance to play. And I was bummed to see with Dylan Moses, obviously, with the injury, missing the playoff, because I thought you were seeing glimpses of what he's going to become. He's going to be a really big deal this year, along with a handful and more of the other players who are going to ask to step in.
Well, I think it's one of the reasons that separates Alabama is this competition. Josh Jacobs is a huge contributor for Alabama last couple of years. We're talking about somebody taking his job. We're talking about a freshman All-American in Jonah Williams at left tackle, and Alex Leatherwood may take his job at left tackle. Yeah.
Josh Jacobs is a perfect name to include. I've watched Josh play a lot. I've gotten to talk to. I'm a big fan of his, obviously. At any other school, he is your number one back. Maybe at a handful, he's your number two. Here, it'll be interesting to see how much he cracks the lineup over the next couple of seasons, or who knows? Because that's a guy that's probably going to go to the combine. You watch it. Who is this kid that weighs 225 pounds that just ran a 4.51? That's the kind of kid that he is. So. And he wasn't even healthy last year. So I'm interested to see what we'll do. This as a whole, this is one of my most favorite backfields that they've ever had. I mean, David Harris coming back to me was one of the surprise moves of the offseason. And then you add in 3 different guys like this with 3 pretty unique skill sets. They're all big, they're all fast, they all can run, but they all do things a little bit differently. What a luxury to have. And that, to me, is, there's a lot of different pieces that you have to replace. You got some great players on the offensive line. You mentioned probably shuffling some guys around. And it's not like you're shuffling around because you're running out of bodies. You're shuffling around to get better players on the field. Add in the running backs that you have, and all of a sudden you've got at least the core of that familiar brand of football that you want to play. And I think that is what's most important for Alabama, especially with all the new faces, on the defense, specifically defensive backfield.
We're talking to Adam Kramer right now, national college football analyst, BleacherReport.com, BleacherReport.com. Adam, I want to go back just a few days, and I know you published an article here talking about Trevor Lawrence, college football's next big thing, might not have to wait long. You really, I mean, because we're talking about quarterback competition here. Explain. Go into Trevor Lawrence and really the opportunity he may have in front of him.
Well, I've had a chance to watch Trevor throw, and this quarterback class, and really the last 2 years, I think is going to be pretty special. Start with Tua, but also what they've got cooking at Georgia. But I think the most impressive of them all, Trevor Lawrence, this was the number one player in the country coming in, and as a senior, playing good competition through 49 touchdowns and one interception as the number one player in the country. I mean, startling the production that he had. But also physically, he's about 6'6", monstrous kid, really put together, refined, mechanically. I've been blown away watching him, and got to see him in Oregon at the opening last year, and knew this would be a deal. Now here's the thing at Clemson. They've had a couple of quarterbacks transfer already. Okay, I think Kelly Bryant, who had a pretty good season, when you had the kind of game that he did against Alabama with elevated competition, his job is up in the air. They've got Hunter Johnson, who was the number one player, the number one quarterback the season before, really one of the top recruits in the country there as well, who couldn't beat out Kelly Bryant. I just think this thing is wide open. And also, you can't help but look at the rest of the roster. The Clemson had a lot of people come back that we didn't think would come back, specifically along that defensive line, where they may have, 4, top 15, top 20 type picks that are coming back next year. You have one of the best defenses and a foundation that's unbelievable, Alabama-like. You've got to put something around there, and you can't do it conservatively. And if you're going for broke, which Clemson should be doing, and really should be doing every year like Alabama does, I think Trevor Lawrence ultimately, maybe not week one, but soon thereafter, is going to give you the best chance to win.
That's amazing when you look at wonderful quarterback development. I think you got to go back and salute these high school coaches for getting these guys ready. I know it's the camps and the openings and the pre-openings. Those are all great, but it also starts with commitment from the high school level to produce even better athletes than they've done in the past.
Well, it's a great point. And Kelly Bryant's an interesting example because I've written about Kelly at Clemson. He played at a school that really didn't allow him to throw it all, and transferred, and they let him sling the ball around a bit. Lo and behold, he starts at Clemson. I know it didn't end well last year, but a guy had a pretty good season. So I think the biggest thing you're seeing from these kids is, a lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches by the time they're 12 years old, and they're being groomed, and you can see that now when you watch them. There's a lot more polish in the way the kids throw, and this comes at a time, mind you, when it felt like the quarterbacking was dying. The art form was dying. Well, this class, you talk to people. I talked to Trent Dilfer about this, who coaches a lot of these kids along Lead 11. And this quarterback class has a chance to be absolutely ridiculous, the one that we just saw. And, by the way, Tua, who was a freshman, just threw the game-winning touchdown, the biggest game of the year, playing against a true freshman, Jake Fromm, who's ultimately probably going to be, competing for his job for the next 3 years, considering they have Justin Fields. So I love it. Just as a fan of the game, when there's so many different styles to play with, you're seeing that now with a guy like Tua, who can do a little bit of everything. Jake Fromm, maybe a little more traditional. Justin Fields at Georgia, who you guys will see up close and personal here at some point, is really special in terms of his qualities. I love it because it's not the same. It's not cookie cutter, and yet we're seeing some pretty unbelievable prospects come through.
Adam Kramer right now, Bleacher Report national college football analyst. Adam, we're talking about it locally here, the discussions from the Tuscaloosa News, Texas, Notre Dame, USC, of being some future matchups for Alabama. Does that get your going? Does it get your pulse going like maybe it would 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago? Alabama, USC, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Alabama, Texas discussing some future games and some matchups in college football.
Oh, heck yeah, it does. You know what else I like? Because I'm seeing the term home and home being thrown around quite a bit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that's what really gets me going. I get why Alabama will play in Jerry's world. I get why Alabama will play in Atlanta. I get all that. It's a business decision. It's maybe easier. It's your fans are probably going to control the environment. But as a purist of the sport, Notre Dame and Georgia playing in Athens and playing in Indiana, I mean, that's a big deal to me because we don't see enough of it. And the one thing I'd love to see, because we are seeing teams schedule up. Now, I'll give Alabama a lot of credit. They've been scheduling up for a while now, is more games in home environments. There is no environment in any sport quite like it. It's where the NFL, to me, can't sniff college football. A college football environment on a Saturday night, or whether it's that, Labor Day weekend, that Sunday night, whatever you want to do it, there's nothing quite like it. So if you want to start getting these games on the docket, especially a Texas team that is loading itself up with talent, USC's not going away, Notre Dame, it's still Notre Dame. I don't care what you think about Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Alabama, give me that. So it does get me excited because even though, Alabama's maybe used to some of these matchups, we're not used to seeing home and home. And the more of these that we can get on our schedule to lock in for those first few weeks, the better, in my opinion.
Going to be a lot of fun. And certainly, how much, I know with college basketball, but on the national level that you're on, how much does this Tua Tagovailoa broken index finger grab your attention out there? Is this something that's on the radar of a lot of college football media guys like yourself?
Of course, for me it is. I mean, it's a big deal. And when you hear that, it's unfortunate because, this can be an overblown time of year when you're talking about who looks good, who doesn't. But for a young quarterback, I think these are really critical reps, obviously. So, anything that impacts a guy who, in my opinion, is going to be the face of college football next year, that's a big story. You hope it's not as big of a deal. It seems like something that they're not necessarily overly concerned about. However, you'd like to avoid it entirely because this time for him would, I think, help him a great deal. So, collectively, what is the college, what is the pulse nationally of something like this? If it was a torn ACL, I think it'd be devastation. But the fact that it's a considerable setback, or at least a setback nonetheless, I think people tuned in. Oh, is he going to be okay? Okay, he will. All right, let me go back to my terrible bracket. Me personally, I want to know everything about this injury because I'm fascinated by the kid, and I think he's going to be a star. He already is a star. So I guess I'm a bad thermometer for this, but I think people are intrigued, man. That kid made a play on a national level that transcended college football fans, even sports fans. So when something happens for like this or anything for the next 3 years or so, people are going to want to know about it.
But I also think it's the one conversation that makes us go back and appreciate backup quarterbacks, okay? And I'm not saying that Jalen's going to be the backup quarterback. Well, maybe I am.
Yeah.
But it makes you understand that you're one play away from having to go, and what a luxury it is for the University of Alabama to have a guy that's 26-2 sitting there in the wings, can either be the starter or the backup or whatever role Nick Saban's going to give him or Mike Locksley, that you've got that much quality in your quarterback room.
I was thinking about this earlier late last week. All of a sudden, he is not just a guy that is physically special, but a guy that has played in as big a moment as you can muster up, a guy that's had moments of brilliance, a guy that's been clutch for you, a guy that has some limitations throwing the football compared to what you have. But if you trot out him for the majority of that schedule, you're going to be an overwhelming favorite, and you feel good about it for the vast majority. Of course, I think, look, we're beating around the bush here. You think Tua is going to be the starter. He most likely is going to be the starter, assuming he's healthy. But if this is the case, you have a situation like this, you're absolutely right now. You're in a much better position. This hasn't been the case in Alabama always. Usually not the case anywhere when you're talking about college where it's hard to draw up really good quarterbacks. Alabama has a luxury at the position now, and it seems like everybody is pretty comfortable with it. That's something Nick Saban talked about, and I believe him, and I think the kids are behind it. It just seems like there's a great synergy, and obviously now it's kind of a glutton of riches, assuming both guys are on the team come August or September.
Adam Kramer, BleacherReport.com, BleacherReport.com. Kegs and Eggs on the Twitter account, Kegs and Eggs, available right there. Adam Kramer, thank you, sir. I hope you have a great day, man, and we'll talk to you maybe in a few weeks, maybe around Alabama's A-Day coming up. Any chance we can get you into Tuscaloosa? I mean, any chance? I mean, we'll send the private jet or something after you?
Actually, there's a good chance I may be making that trip. I'm still working on it now. So if that's the case, my friend, we got to get some grub and oh yeah, no, I'll keep you posted on that. But it's looking more and more like.
I love it. I love it because you've always got these wonderful stories up your sleeves. Adam, thanks, man. Have a great weekend and a great week.
All right, buddy. Thanks, buddy. You too.